Hello and welcome to Supply Chain Africa News. My name is Wandabo Wanyama. The micro, small and medium enterprises, MSMEs, are widely considered as major contributors to economic growth, innovation and job creation in leading markets, and particularly in developing economies. They represent about 90% of business and account for 50 to 90% of world's labor force. MSMEs are the backbone of African economies, accounting for more than 90% of all businesses. Today, we are delighted to host Mr. Alphonce Juma, the founder of ORACOM Web Solutions Limited, from offering free services just to build his portfolio to one of the best performing SMEs in the country. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing?
Very good, very good. And as you're talking about SMEs, I think it's a very big conversation right now, especially during this time of COVID, because like for myself, I've seen the brand that I've built moving from that SME, like that small, to somewhere where we are in now. So I think it's definitely a very big conversation.
You know, actually, you can see we have a lot of things that you are going to talk about. But before we start, it's good for our viewers to know who is Alphonce.
Yeah, so Alphonce Juma, how would I say? I'm an entrepreneur, I can say. And starting from where I started and how the spirit of business came to me, initially I wasn't exposed. That's from my background. I wasn't exposed a lot to a lot of things, especially life in the city.
Where
I wasn't
did you
exposed.
grow up when you talk about that?
Actually, I grew up in a place called Uyoma in Sia County. That's in Rarieda. And what I used to do when I was young was just to graze. Like I used to really do a lot of grazing. Yeah, and then I got an opportunity to go to high school. I was at Maranda High School. And then from there, I joined Moi University. And I was just telling someone today, when I was joining Moi University, it was actually my first time I was leaving the county, because that was now in Eldoret and it was very different. And then when I moved from Moi University, that's when I learned about a lot of business. Actually, what I used to do in Moi was to do, these things you do in the small cubicle, the printing. I was doing printing, photocopying for people, for their papers. And then from there, the spirit of business came and I just loved it, that at least you can make some more money. And then I came to Nairobi. My first time in the year 2009 was my first time in the city. Yeah, and then I just decided to start business. Yeah.
Growing up in Uyoma, did you see yourself as an entrepreneur?
Yes, I was an entrepreneur, but at a small scale. I could actually sell things, by the way. These ones that you sell by the roadside. My grandmother used to have so many mangoes, a farm. So what I could do was to go there, get them and then put them on the road. And then as people come, I was the real definition of a hustler. People come, they buy, and then I make some small money on it. And then, yeah. So from that time, the way I loved it. And then I was also doing some kind of small farming. And then there was a time I did that. And then the whole village was depending on my farm for vegetables. So I felt like there was something in me that just needed to be grown or to be just mentored. Yeah, and I loved business from that tender age.
As a youth, you have been in business for over 10 years now. How has it been like?
Maybe I just give you a small brief of how I got into this other type of business now. In 2009, I actually graduated 2010, Moi University. By then I had the small machines that you use for printing for people. Then when I came to Nairobi in 2010, I didn't know Nairobi like completely. So what I could do, what I learned was that I needed to know the compass direction of the bearing. So I started by knowing the Moi Avenue, and then I mastered that. And then because I had the machines, I decided to set up a shop at Luthuli Avenue. So within Luthuli, I started now my printing, computer printing, and it was called Korango. My father is called Orango, so in Kijalu you say Korango. So that was my shop. And we started small, like we could make like 200 shillings in a day. And by that time I was living in Kayole, and that really shaped my life. So after that, what happened then was we decided to now grow it a little bit. And from all that time, life wasn't easy. Actually, as you talk about the small businesses, I think we've seen it all. There is one of my employees who still work with me even up to now, 10 years now. His name is John. He still reminds me how we used to, when you're doing that photocopy, sometimes the cartridge, you have to, suck the ink, and then it comes out, and then you continue doing the photocopy. So like we knew it all. Yeah, so after that, what I decided to do, we started from Kayole. Yeah, and the life from Kayole, and then just knowing that this business is able to give us at least 200 shillings in a day, just photocopying for people, we decided to do some kind of a small improvement on it. So what we did next is we went to a place called Tasia. So in Tasia, we decided now it was a little bit easier to connect through town. So what we could do was use the rail throughout all the days. And then what happened then was the business started doing a little better. Yeah, but we were not warned that when you use these machines, there is a time when they get worn out completely, and then it becomes so costly to run that business. So that's when we decided to stop that business. And then we got into Web Solutions, which now gave back to ORACOM now.
Okay.
Yes.
And I want us to talk about that.
So when we were starting ORACOM, I just started a little. That was actually the same year. All these things happened like the same year. So that's what I did, 2010. That was 2010. So when I started ORACOM, it was to be Web Solutions. So in my first month of starting, we realized that business is very difficult because it was all about Web Solutions. You have to depend on clients who come online. So what we did next is I decided to go for employment. So you can't believe it, but in 1 year, between in the middle of 2010 and 2011, I was employed in like 6 companies.
Why?
6 companies.
Why were you moving from one company to the other?
Yeah, for me, I knew I was to start my own. So what I could do is go to this company, learn from it, and resign. Resign. I just resigned. So I did that. I think for many businesses, they get me on board, and I still apologize for them, but I wanted to learn. So I just see how much can I learn from here in terms of business, how is it done, and then I resign. But there's one company that really changed my life. That was, I don't know whether it would be good to mention in the
You
show,
can just mention it,
but this
no
was
problem.
AAR Insurance. They'd announced for a position called Business Development Executive. And I was there, still employed. Actually, my first employer was paying me 300 shillings, 3,000 shillings for the whole month. That was my first salary. And then when they announced this position, I saw it like the best, like an executive. Who am I to be an executive?
You were so excited by the name executive.
I was so excited. So I joined it. Little did I know that it was just sales. The term was decorated. So I joined that. And then the work there was literally go to businesses. Actually, I was assigned industrial area, this area. So I could go through Likoni Road, and then I try and get people, and selling insurance. That job is difficult, very difficult. So from there, I learned. It's the only business that I think shaped me. And I was there for 3 months. I never earned a single bob. Actually, there was a day we went to Jamhuri Park, and we were given 200 bob for lunch. That's the only money I got from that company. But what I learned from that company was very great, because it taught me what it means to start small for a business and what it means to look for a customer. And then from there, what I learned from all those companies is that when you try to improve your image, then your business, there's a way in which clients will trust your business. So I decided to go to Kileleshwa. Yeah, and then...
Speaking of Kileleshwa, I've realized that you are very strategic when it comes to location of your offices. What's that important thing about branding? Because the first office in Kileleshwa.
It was in the office. These days I do interviews and I confess,
Yeah.
It was in an office. Actually, it was an SQ house. We got it. We were paying 6,000 shillings. But we made it like an office. And why we did that was because we needed... this hype of where are your offices? They're in Kileleshwa. So whenever we would make calls, you tell everyone we are based in Kileleshwa. And then there's something that we made sure never happened. No one ever visited that business. So they knew ORACOM is a very big company. It's in Kileleshwa. But whenever you would say that I'm coming, can I visit your offices? Can I come? No. Until in 2015 when we were forced to move from Kileleshwa. But what changed our lives in Kileleshwa was the fact that every time we would walk out of the gate, of course, we are in an SQ house and it's all, rich guys, So every time we would walk out of the gate, everyone is speaking English. Life is very different. And at least when someone invites you into their house, the kind of programs they watch, as we watch some program, for them it's all about how to be strategic, how to grow startups, and then it's very nice programs.
Did it shape you in a way?
That shaped us. Because even their kids, like in Kileleshwa, their kids were speaking very good English with us. So we were like, if these are the same people we need to do business with, and if corporates look at us in this level in terms of branding, actually, to just tell you, when we went, there was a day we left Kileleshwa and we got our first client. He had called for a meeting. And when we went for that office, it was in Parklands. Then we just stepped by the door and saw how the office was good. Like, it was a very nice office. And the way we were dressed that time, we decided to go back home. So they could call us, where are you? You said you're just almost. And then we were like, no, can we do the meeting tomorrow? Because we were not dressed for that. So these days when you talk about issues of brand, like branding, it considered that client. And we didn't go simply because we were not well dressed. And we realized it. And we didn't step in for the meeting. But when we went back home, we decided to borrow suits by the way we borrowed. And then we went the following day and we got the business.
I want you to address that youth watching us right now and he wants to start a business. Why is it important that you have to brand yourself?
It's very important because your image, immediately a person sees you. Normally, like I've been to KCB Lions 10, maybe that's something we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But there's something that one of the Lions told us, that Alphonse, I already believe in you. So it's not about the money it's not about the project. Sometimes it's not about the business. Sometimes it's not about the nature of the deal. Sometimes it's about the person. Yeah, so for investors, it's about, is this the right character? Is this the right person to invest in? Is it a person who would carry the brand? Could it be the right person? So they talk about the person. So when you look at that aspect of a person, it's very important, especially for youth. I see them, it starts by how you even brand your social media, how you introduce yourselves. It can cost you something very little just to go to a good studio and then take a very good photo, edit it very well, and then put it on our social media pages. That alone, if I was browsing on the internet and I see somebody is dressed smart, there is something that already pick from that person. This image is good. This person is somebody I can trust, This is a person that I can do business with. So I think this is something that the youth ignore when they are starting their businesses. And for me, what I did, I've already said it, we decided to go to Kileleshwa. And for that, it was changing the way we dress, the way we, of course, in where we were staying, we were the only people who were leaving the gate without a car. So, it's a lot of things. So every youth really need to consider about their personal branding and how they carry out themselves.
As a startup in Kileleshwa, what were the challenges that you are facing at that time?
A lot of challenges. When you're a startup, there are so many challenges. One is capital. So for me, my what I believed in, what helped me to start the company is I looked at the way, like when I was grazing in my early years, there is this animal called frog. So sometimes when it's dry, you don't see them. And then immediately it rains, they would all be, they'll all be around in the waters, making noise. So that process I learned in biology is called hibernation. So what I decided to do was to hibernate. in Kileleshwa, what we did was to hibernate. That is, move away from life of friends, because when you are with friends, you know, peer pressure. Alphonse, where are you today? Where are we going to take lunch, you know? And some of these things are monies that you can save for your business. So when we went there, we decided to, you know, just save everything. So instead of paying rent, doing anything, we are saving it. And that really helped us.
So you're talking about saving it. At that point, your rent was 6,000. Yes. So how much had you invested in that business before even you paid the rent?
In the business, actually, I told you the number of companies I worked in. In one of them, it was one of the bazaars, the car bazaars around. And they are the company that is another Netherlands company. They were paying me around, I think we started at 25,000. Yeah, and what I could do when I was there, because I knew I was going to leave, was to save. Yeah, so from that, the small money I had saved up to that time is the money that I used to start life the first month. It wasn't money that was going to sustain me. But another thing that I had also done before just doing my resigning was to start doing some small businesses. So by the time I was fully leaving work, I already had some clients who had already started coming. Because another mistake that people make is, I would say, you know, these days I see how people, the young people, they incite the others. They say, oh, when you go work for this company, you're going to build their dream. So, you know, you'd pick up that and then you're like, I'm going to do it. So myself, I also did it when I was starting and it failed terribly. And then I had to go back and get employed to those 6 companies and then come back. Well, I was now more experienced. So what we really need to know is that business is not kind to people and life is also not kind. If you're not prepared, you know, when you're into business and you already started your business and there is no money. When I started my business and I was staying in Kileleshwa, I was staying with this young man called John. And the only word, when I resigned, the only word he used was, Alphonse, tutakula nini? Because it was literally like there's nothing. But we had to pay Zuku for internet because we considered that important. We had to pay the rent. And then we had to pay our food. That was it. And we closed the chapter. With the little clients we were getting, life started from there. And everything was sacrifice, and saving.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Let's take a short commercial break. And when we come back, we shall also talk about that one thing that you wished someone could have told you before you joined entrepreneurship.